I wrote down 5 years worth of yearly resolutions to realize these essence. I promise you that after this video, you will create and write down the best yearly resolutions up to date. And the way that I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna tell you the stories first, then I'm gonna tell you the biggest advices that are turnarounds in this, and then I'm gonna give you the secrets about the yearly resolutions of mine. So, 5 years ago, I started writing all of the resolutions, alright? I watched all of the videos, I read a few books here and there that talks about these subjects, alright? And all of them had a lot of stuff, right? Some of them, actually a lot of them are contradicting with each other, because some of them say you have to be unrealistic about your goals so you get motivated and you have all of the adrenaline to actually do the stuff and take on the tasks that you have to undertake. But the other half tells you that no, you should be realistic, and also another half, so there's three, right, that tells you you have to make resolutions based on what you can control. I have a story for each one of them. I tried them all, I have all the data, and I analyzed them, and I realized that there is just one of them that actually works best. So the first year I started doing my resolutions, just like everyone else. I took a video and I gave a resume or a summary of the year prior to that. I said, you know what, here's what happened this year, here's what happened, and you remember all of those bullshit that you always see them on Instagram and all over the place. And I gave my yearly resolutions. It was completely unrealistic. In fact, some of them that still now I didn't accomplish. 5 years later, I still didn't accomplish the resolutions that I did 5 years prior, okay? And it makes so much sense because I pretty much think that everyone's first resolutions doesn't work because they will mess up, right? Because they simply didn't try it enough, except if they have someone who teaches them, of which I am gonna be here giving you my data. So I think out of all of the years that I wrote down my yearly resolutions, the last year is actually the best year. But it's not what you think. It's not what you think will make the best resolutions for a year is what actually makes them. And it's not that there is some secret. You see all of the people that shares resolutions online. You see some people don't share it. Which one is better? Any time of the week you don't share it, it's better. Just don't say it. There's that quote that says, if you want the gods to laugh at you, say your dreams out loud. Timothy has said it. The actor Timothy from Dune, he said that. And you're like, okay, well that makes some sense. He's a kid, but he still has millions of dollars and he still is successful actor. Probably he has a mentor who taught him that. That's why he said in an interview. If that doesn't make any sense for you, wait. I'm gonna give you, it will get even better. Because once I saw, and everything will make sense in a second, I was looking at all of the big people, alright? Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and etc. And I looked at them and I saw their conferences talking about the future. They were like, in the future we'll make robotics. Elon Musk always is in the future. The thing that people don't know is that those conferences are for shareholders. Usually only shareholders are allowed to get in those conferences, and that's why you see them talking a lot about the future, sometimes bragging about the past, but most importantly talking about the future, because that's what selling is. They have to sell those people. If you're not familiar with the sales process, you don't sell the meat, you sell the vacation. That's what you do, okay? So if you want to sell a ticket, you don't talk about the ticket and how it's actually awesome and it's from good material, or the place is awesome, or the place in the plane is awesome. You talk about the vacation. How you will feel in the vacation, what is the feeling, all the people that you will meet, how your mental state will become better, your physical state will become better, you will get relief from all of the stress and routine and everything you have in your life. That's what it is, okay? And you're like, okay, this makes all of the sense, but still I don't know what to do with my yearly resolutions. The first thing that I want you to understand is that all of the stuff that you see those big people are doing for shareholders, and usually it's not really accurate. So they're just telling their plans broadly, to make sure that the shareholders believe in them, that they actually know what they're doing. You don't have shareholders, most likely, so you don't need to do the same. What do you need to do is make resolutions based on the data you have, which is what I did last year. And that's why it was actually the best resolutions that I made, because the one difference that I did was looking at the data. My first yearly resolution, I didn't look at the data, but I just looked at other people's lives. I said, you know what? People get hundreds of thousands, like Mr. Beats gets 100,000 subscriber in 1 hour, so why not I'm gonna make it in 1 year? But it doesn't work like that. The way it works is based on your data. What have you done in the past year so that make you say that you will be 100% sure that the next year you will do it? And look, I'm not against unrealistic resolutions. I think they're also necessary, and part of it will be unrealistic resolution no matter what it is. Even if you look at the data and you're like, okay, I'm doing X and I want to add up, so let's say X and a half or X.2, okay, to what I was doing this year, it's gonna be unrealistic, because if you're doing the best, you'll be like, dude, how can I do that? But that's what gives you the adrenaline and the rush to actually take on the task that you have to do in order for you to accomplish that resolution. So if that doesn't make sense to you enough, I'm gonna explain to you everything step by step, and it will always make sense. It will all make sense at the end. So hear me this. The data that I looked at was simple. I looked at data from the best people in the field. I said, you know what, I'm gonna see the best team. It's a company that is profitable. I saw the laws that they have and the guidelines that they have for their employees that I want to be like. It's different. So I'm not looking for a freelancer or someone who works on himself as an entrepreneur. I'm looking for a company that gives rules to their content creators or to their employees or to their salespeople, etc., whatever it is that you are in, and you want to be that person. You want to apply those rules. For me, the rules that I had was actually very simple. Okay, it was how many videos I should upload a month. And they had a number. I said, you know what, I'm gonna double that because I'm not at their level. So if they have millions of dollars that they can deal with, so what I'm talking about here is like you will not know. Okay, so just make sure that's one note. But like I knew that they're just better than me and they have millions of dollars, so might as well double what they do. Just at least like I will get the grab of it, wrap my hand around it. I was like, okay, I'm gonna do that. I did that. Most importantly, I did that before the yearly resolutions, which is people that everyone is making the wrong mistake. It's like they do that after the year has started. Oh, it's 2025. After 1 month, I'm gonna make the yearly resolutions. It doesn't work like that. You start working on your resolutions way before. So if you're watching this later on, or just about to start the new year, or it just got started, sure, then it's like you have to do that. But if you have the freedom, you're watching this in October, whatever it is, you just have to you have to work on from now. And the best people actually, they work on their yearly resolutions the year prior, because it's all a continuous line, right? And just to clarify one thing, not making or not giving yourself the actual yearly resolution will be the biggest mistake that you do. You should make yearly resolutions. Because a lot of people will be like, why would I? Like, do I need to make yearly resolutions? And yes, that's why Elon Musk said in a conference, they gave this goated quote. Elon Musk gave this goated quote that is still stated to this day. He says, the people have goals for 10 years and you have 2. Get those, what you think you will get in 10 years, put a goal to get it in 6 months. It's not only that you will have the chance to achieve it, but by definition, you will be better than everyone who thinks that and has the perception that it can only be achieved in 10 years. There is no competition. Okay, so if they think that they can achieve it in 10 years, you believe it will be 6 months, you're already in a better playing field. So right off the bat, you're better. You understand? And as Sun Tzu, The Art of War, the great of a book, says, the war is won before it even begins. And it's like that. Resolutions is that thing that Sun Tzu had in mind when he said what he said. And this might be confusing to some of you that never did yearly resolution. I bet that everyone did some sort of yearly resolution, even if they didn't write it down. And by the way, if you don't write down your yearly resolutions or you don't document them, so whether it's writing, edit, like video, it's audio, it's something, right? It has to be something that can be tracked. And you can be like, oh, this year I set this resolution and I achieved this, okay? And you have to do something that you can come back. Let's say like 6 months later, you have the goal for 1 year, come back 6 months later, and you look at it and you're like, oh, well, am I halfway? Did I just get 20%, 25%? Am I on track? Or I have proceed what I thought I could do? So you can adjust along the way. If you have just an idea, you're like, I just think about my yearly resolution and that's it. That's not enough. Because ideas goes and comes and the circumstances will change. The thing about yearly resolutions and why most people can't actually achieve them, including me, okay, in some ways, like 1 year, okay, is because the circumstances changes. So when you start the year, when you end the year, you're not the same person. Your circumstances are not the same. The events that happens to you are unpredictable. You cannot predict by 100% accuracy what will happen in the next year, right? But you can based on the data. That's why I'm telling, if you have some sort of data, go look at it. Let's say you're a salesperson and you're doing cold outreach, okay? Cold calls. Let's say that every month for the last year, you were doing, let's say, 200 cold calls a month, okay? This is just an example. 200 cold calls a month, every month for the past year. And you're like, okay, so the next year, as a resolution, obviously I can do the 200. Now, the next year, I have to do something better. And you think and you go through the process of what are the limits. You see other people what are doing. If your friend is doing 300, of course you gotta do 300. Why? Because guess what? He's not better than you, so you might as well do 300. It's great yearly resolution. You have the motivation. It's unrealistic, and also it will give you the adrenaline that you need. For some people will go all the way and you'll be like 500. Sure, but you have to also understand that the bigger and crazier it is, the harder it is to get. So for 500, I will say it might be doable, because one thing that will change the entire trajectory of your resolutions, and because it did in mine, and I'm going to tell you why, is doing the resolution based on stuff that you can control. What do I mean by this? So instead of saying, let's say the same example with a salesperson, last year he was doing 200 calls a month. Let's say out of those 200 calls a month, he was closing 2 clients every month. Okay, so this year he says, instead of getting, let's say, 2 clients, so that's 24 clients a year, this year I want to get 50 clients, so double what I did last year. But he was not collecting any data. He has no clue about how he can do that. He will just get paralyzed by the resolution he just put, and it might be a source of depression, because he has to understand, what does it mean to have 50 people closed? Does it mean that I have to work on my sales process, my sales script? Do I have to upper the consistency? So from 200, I get it to 400. What do I need to do as something that I can control? So under my control, okay? I can control how many calls I can book. I can control what's the script I can say. I can control with whom I'm going to talk, okay? I can control with the tone I'm going to talk, the speed I'm going to talk, the way I'm going to talk, the time I'm going to talk. All of this, I can control. What I can control is 50 people. And this where data comes clutch again. The more data you have, so if you don't have data, your goal is to have data. So you want to do as many reps as possible. So I invite you to make the resolution volume based. If you're doing sales process or you're a salesperson and you're making, let's say, 200 calls a month, okay, make it 400 or make it 300. If that actually challenges you, the reason behind it is not what you will get as a return, of which usually you might get that, right? So the results. But most importantly, you will get the volume, which gives you the data of which you can analyze, and you can identify patterns, and you can make decisions based on them. What does this mean? You will realize that, well, what is the common thing between everyone that I closed? Is there a common thing? Oh, okay. All of them are this avatar, okay? Let's say they make X amount of money per year. They are this age. I talk to them this day. All of the data that they have all in common. And you compare it with others. So is there another person that comes to all of these criteria, or one of them, etc., and I didn't close? And try to know all the reasons behind you closing. So this literally understands, it's like, what can you do in your control to better what you cannot control? So instead of just focusing on what you can't control, you can't control how many people will say yes, but you can control, based on the data, what can you do that is more likely to make people say yes. And this is not just for sales, it's for everyone. Even if you are in college or high school, whatever, hopefully you're in college or something, dude, or your work, analyze anything. Even if your job has no idea about what I'm talking about, is very different, you can always implement the same. It's all about volume, then you have data, then you have analysis, then you make decisions, then you repeat. And the good thing about it is that next year you'll feel very comfortable doing the same volume, and you might also add on it, right? Because when you think about it, if you cannot do something consistently, it doesn't make sense how good it is, okay? And that's honestly what it is. When it comes to volume versus quality versus bullshit that you see always on social media, that's not it. And people that says don't do goals but make systems is bullshit when it comes to yearly resolutions. Systems has no idea, it has no relationship whatsoever to do with yearly resolutions. It's just what it is. Because yearly resolutions is literally goals. You don't do systems as yearly resolutions. You're like, oh, I just made a system and it is my resolution. Okay, so how do you know that you achieved it? It's not achieved. The way you do it is you make the goal, then you make the system that can make you do the goal. Sure, it is. So for the sales process that we said, you make the analysis, then you make a system that you actually go through all the steps and you try to aim at the avatar that is more likely to actually get closed, which is the 80-20% rule. So 20% of the effort gives you 80% of the results, and you do because you have the data. If you don't have the data, you can't do it. So you have to do volumes, you get the data, so you analyze, make decisions, then you have the decisions, then you do what I'm telling you. It's like literally do what you do. It's like make the goals, do the process where you implement these decisions that you did. Obviously, you want to one-up yourself every year, so it's exciting. You don't want to do just what you did last year. Alright, even if you want to, just add some bullshit thing. Just change one thing, one or two things that will help you, because you will feel excited. It's not like last year, I'm going up. Even if it's some bullshit, I'm telling you, like, let's say you did the decisions, etc., and you did that sales, you did sales, and 1 year later, you're trying to make the resolutions, okay? Let's say, so you're now advanced, okay? What will you do then? Well, you repeat the same thing. Here, it's tricky. You can up if you can to. If you're like, I can do better. I can do more, right? Or I can do something new. It's usually one of the three. Okay, sure, do it. Well, if you can't, do what you did last year, okay? Whether do it more or add just something to it. That's what it is. So if you, let's say you had the systems and you did sales script, okay, as yearly resolutions. So you did, let's say, 300 cold calls per month, okay? Each one of them has to follow the best scripts according to the data. Then you say every 3 months I have to change that script and make it up to date. Okay. Then you say that I only talk to these avatars and I renew the data every 3 months. So every trimester. This is a yearly resolution. So the next year you can say something like, just keep the volume the same, so 300 calls per month, but you change the other stuff. So instead of renewing the data every trimester, you change it every 2 months, every 1 month, or you make some version of it that you can update weekly, bi-weekly, etc. So you make the same thing, but you change something. So at least you make sure that you are one-upping yourself, even if it's something small, because you don't believe deep in your core that you can't do it, which is rare. Usually you can, okay? And here's the thing. Most yearly resolutions, you have no clue that you can actually do them. So what I give as an advice from my personal experience, how I did it, is about 2 to 3 months before I started the journey, and I didn't have any intentions actually. So I did that in the year prior. So when it came January, 1st January, when I was making the yearly resolutions, I actually made it in 5th January. When I was making the resolutions, I had data that I can be based on. If you have the time to collect data before, or you access some sort of data, it's always better to make accurate yearly resolutions. Other than that, if you have no idea about what I'm talking about, you have no data, you have nothing, it's literally your first year doing your resolutions, yeah, it's fine. Just make some random thing. Focus on volume, okay? So let's say you work in an office, that you work from 9 to 5, and your job is to testify the papers that are actually original, and you're doing, let's say, 10 papers per day. You can make it 15 per day. Okay, or per month or per quarter, whatever you want, whatever works for you, whatever you feel it's comfortable and you can actually do. Because if you're really resolutions, which is also, I think this is the most important, I believe. So the reason why my first yearly resolution didn't actually go as planned is because some of them didn't have a direct connection with my goals, with who I am, with what I'm doing. So if you're a salesperson, it doesn't make sense to make something about that has no idea. It's like, I don't know, like product delivery. You don't want that. Stick to what you do and keep doing it. Except if you reach the limit that you cannot do not more of the thing you do, and you cannot do better than the thing you do, which is very rare. Like you have to be at the top 1% of the world to be in this situation that I'm speaking of. Then you can just try something new and probably it will work. Okay, so as I promised, right now you have what you see in here, you can never unseen it. Take what I told you, go make your yearly resolutions now. And look, don't just think about them, write them down on a paper. If you want to digitalize, sure, you can also write them down on a spreadsheet, whatever works for you. But I would prefer to write them down, even if you just scratch the paper, or if a whiteboard, just erase it, but just write them down. That will help you memorize them better. And look, your yearly resolutions will never be the same. And that's what I promised. So subscribe.